I'm going to begin with a tribute to my parents. This is Happy Jack, my father. He was born on this day, April 6th. And Jack, you with me, Jack? Of course you are.
Say happy birthday.
Oh, it's okay, please. This is Wheezy in Big Sky Country at the moment with her arms outstretched, who touched probably thousands of people as a yoga teacher, one of the first yoga teachers in the Delaware Valley. And she chose this day, April 6th, to leave her body. Mama.
Wow.
Their personalities are so vibrant and so colorful. And that has completely disappeared from the earth. So as rich as my childhood was, and as rich as these human beings were, that is gone. But they are completely here, right here. And you know who else is right here? Hannelore is right here. Bob is right here. Our ancestors are with us. And there's a continuum. Thich Nhat Hanh always speaks about the continuum body and the generations moving forward and the generations going back are all served somehow, can't understand it, by the thing that the world needs the most here and now, which is you and me becoming free, to be evolved in the way, is it Marie? That Marie was speaking about, is the greatest service. And not only to this world here, but somehow generations moving back. It's been written about by many sages, and I just love the idea. It's just so inspirational. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being with me. It's always a tremendous blessing, because if you haven't noticed in your own lives, what we offer, what we teach, what we share is what we can use the most ourselves as individual human beings. My topic, I had always had the question, there's a universe, there's one. What is this little soul? What is the soul? What is this individuated thing? And that question finally dawned within me and also was offered to me through something I'd like to mention, a Sufi wisdom that I enjoy every day called a bowl of sake, S-A-K-I. Just remember S-A-K-I and have a bowl of it. If you look it up, there's a free email that you can receive every day that is just, it is like Circle, completely open and non-exclusive of any kind of it's every faith. And it is beautiful. And this one that I picked up and read described the soul as nothing but pure consciousness. But in this world and in a human being, a soul, though it is pure consciousness, is captive by the world, or I should say by its identification with this world. Activated is an interesting word, isn't it? So is entranced. And this world is pretty awesome and rather easy, since we've been conditioned from a very young age to grow up and look out. And also look out. But we're looking out, and we are conditioned to, it's a play. In Hindi, I think it's called Leela. It's a play that we're born. I have 5 grandchildren now, but I remember when my 6 children were babies, and every one of them looked at me, and there was God. There was pure, unconditioned light. pure consciousness, nothing but the awareness that looked through your eyes when you were a baby. So this is inherent. But then in the play, we become identified and often attached, and have those attachments, especially to the kids. But I feel those things and see those things differently now because I understand more. But our identification with the things of the world can entrance us, can trap us, the attachments Marie spoke about. It's natural and it's okay. But there is an evolution happening that you also were kind enough to speak about. And that evolution is everywhere. And so it is you and me, but it is also the collective human consciousness. It wants to be pure consciousness. It doesn't want to be trapped anymore. The way you and I experience it, if I can speak for you just for a moment, I imagine is like the way I experience it. Sometimes it's suffering. Sometimes it's chronic worry or feeling confused and lost in some way. But the very suffering that arises, the thorn in the side, can of course be grace. I want to speak just, and I've spoken, and Ken always says, I always say the same thing when I come. But I say it in different, I say it, I'm not even speaking here. It's just coming. So three life situations in my life that were quite traumatic. And this is coming to what the difference is between the soul and pure consciousness. 15 years old, I'll make these stories short. 15 years old, a cousin that was like a brother to me, killed suddenly in a bike accident. I'm going to the funeral with his sisters, who were like my sisters, and there were tears, and there was confusion, and there was great pain in my uncle and aunt, and I'm in the red station wagon, and all I can describe it as a great, undeniable peace. I don't know whether it settled down or it came out. I feel as though now it came out. Rose for me in the car. Now I'm a young teenager and I had no idea what this was. And I said out loud, it's okay. Somehow I know this is all right. And as I said it, I was horrified that I had just said that, but I could not deny the truth that rose up. I could not deny it. I won't go into how it was all right. It's not important. When I was 25 and had my first of 6 kids, he was born 12 weeks early. And in Children's Hospital, he was, in those days, at 3 pounds, and then he was life or death. And I was not prepared to help my wife. I was not prepared to help him. I just hung around the NICU nurses. They were my saviors. And there was nothing I could do. And it became too much. And one day I walked out into the Children's Hospital parking lot and I said, please, please help. And it was the first kind of surrender. It was nothing I decided to do. It happened. The next morning I woke up and there was a different space around me that once again, I could not begin to explain or understand. But a deep peace, undeniable, that changed my attitude toward the outside world. And I found the strength to help in small ways. I sang on cassette tapes and put them in the incubator area. I read poetry that was inspirational to me for my little baby. I was able to be supportive of my wife. I had a wonderful relationship. It was brief, just a couple of years, but I was deeply in love. But I was fueled by an illusion of being a rescuer and a peacemaker, two elements of my personality that kind of hung out for decades. I didn't know they were there. I thought that's me, the Peter guy, right? Well, it ended up as an enormous slap in the face, and it suddenly ended. And it was so painful, it felt somehow like dying, because it was not only the end of that relationship, but there was something in me dying. Ram Dass called it the crisp trip. Like, who wants to go on that? I didn't choose that, but there it was. And there was a hole in the fabric of my existence, a hole in my identity. It was big, and it was a little scary. But when I was ready somehow, something in me said, turn. And I moved, stayed present right into that space. And there was a tremendous sense of freedom and an enormous, I was the background. I was the ground of being, the background. In that hole, which to my little ego self was just nasty, confusing, within that space was the very ground of being somehow. And all I can tell you is the trauma of it, the shakeup of it, was a tremendous wake up. And the awakening felt, again, whether I understood it or could have described it at that time, very real. So I had a teacher who used to speak here a couple of times named Shantanan, and he would say things like, okay, I'll channel him now. Here's a blackboard. We have such and such ego, he'd make these circles on the blackboard. He'd say, different shape, this ego, big ego, small ego, whatever. Now, through the flow of life, the natural flow of life, there's an evolution, a fading of the shells of these egos. He's taken an eraser and he starts to make them fainter and fainter. Now you see, so I erase the egos. Behind the ego, this is all blackboard. You see, blackboard was always there. It was always there. It was always there. It is all on the surface that we get confused with these little identities that are always changing anyway. And then the famous one, clouds. Oh, come and go in the sky. But the blueness of the sky remains ever intact. And then he'd pregnant pause, right? And then you'd say, I'm sorry, I'm moving around here. Then you'd say, you are that blueness of the sky. Here and now, you are that which is changeless, timeless, formless, free. And I did try to understand that with my thinking mind, it just gave me a headache. But the seeds were planted. The seeds were planted. And in their own time, they grow. And now, the song that I sang to you, which is 40 years old, I didn't understand it when it came through me. I'm living it. The soul did not understand it, but the soul really enjoyed it, even 40 years ago, singing that song. Consciousness, which is what we all are. Blackboard. Consciousness now resides. You could say risen, you could say becomes dominant, and this little Peter guy becomes not dominant. Very nicely freed from, with the realization that somehow it is all unfolding. Even the stuff we protest and we would not choose is unfolding. And to judge it on one level, the serenity prayer comes into mind. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to have the courage to protest, to do what I'm drawn to do, to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the soul is plugging away, and consciousness is the wisdom. And is fueling our soul. The soul is born hungry to do what it is. It's innately hungry. So when I would write these songs, I wouldn't write them. But when they would come through me, I was hungry. I wanted to know, what am I? What is this? And none of us would be in this space were we not hungry. All of you, me, you, one. You wouldn't spend your Sunday morning here without that hunger. And the hunger is a blessing. There are interesting words that begin with S. Surrender is what I experienced. Deep surrender. What am I surrendering? What I thought was me. And by the way, it was a burden to be a rescuer and a peacemaker. Somehow I grew up and that Jack, you did your best. But my mother would say, honey, go upstairs. Your dad comes home from work every day and he's all stressed out. Somehow you seem to help every day, go on up. So I was the peacemaker from a very young age. Somehow, perfect, but set me up for some relationship growth that was required later in life. And we all have those things, the stories. But it's so liberating to let go of those stories when we feel we can, when we realize that we can witness them, we can see them. The silent witness. That was the experience. In all those cases that I told you about the trauma, there was a peaceful, silent, tremendously powerful, infinitely large background that witnessed life unfolding with peace and love and deep understanding. I don't know that there's more that I can or need to share, but I'm happy to open this up. Yeah.